Hello, everyone. My name is Chip. I'm from the MG Car Club Rocky Mountain Center. I am thrilled to be spending a few minutes talking with you about the basics of time, speed, distance rallying, specifically as applicable to events hosted by the MG Car Club, RMC, and our Rally Glenwood Springs that we hold every year in June. I'm recording this video in June 2026. So if you are in the future, be aware that some of these rules may have changed, although as far as my knowledge, these have been very steady for many years. So always consult the most up-to-date rules, which are available from the MG Car Club website. You can find our rally generals and then also an updated version of this primer, which helps explain stuff at a very high level. So, what is a time, speed, distance, or TSD rally? TSD stands for time, speed, distance. This is an event that the goal is to get from point A to point B, spaced in distance, in the perfect amount of time by going the perfect speed between point A and point B. During an event, you'll have many checkpoints. Your goal is to follow the instructions that are given to you, drive between checkpoint locations, don't mess up the navigation, and keep your speed at an ideal average speed given to you in the instructions, and then you're scored based on how long it takes for you to get from point to point compared to the perfect duration from that point to point. And the lowest score wins. What's great about this kind of event is it's easy to go participate. All you need is a car, any car. For MG Car Club events, we have special categories for vintage cars and MG cars, but any car will do, and we welcome everybody to this great activity. You need a driver and a navigator. You're going to have a bad time trying to do both as one person. This is a team event, which is part of what makes it so much fun. So a driver and navigator are required. You'll need a general understanding of our rally instructions. It's always a good idea to bring a copy that you can review, the morning of an event, and then consult if you have questions during the event. And here's a link that you can go find the most updated rally general instructions. Other things that I would consider required are a clipboard, pen, pencils. Highlighters are very helpful. Sticky notes. We drive a Roadster, with an open top, so we generally don't use too many sticky notes. But a stopwatch is also a helpful thing, depending on how serious you want to get with your rally competition. And then finally, for most events, we're running digitally now. We are in the 21st century running digital rallies with GPS capability on our phones. So timing is done automatically, which makes running these events much easier on the organizers. So you'll need a mobile phone that's got this RICTA competitor app installed. You should consult with whatever specific event you're doing. For the Rally Glenwood Springs as of at least 2026, we're using this RICTA competitor app, which is really easy to use, and we'll talk about that here in a few slides. For a long rally, do keep in mind that using full-time GPS can drain battery pretty quick. So bring a power bank, bring a charging cable to keep your phone up to the juice over a longer day. Anything probably about over 3 hours if you've got a phone with decent battery. You should probably plan to bring a power bank, just in case. So I mentioned, what do you need? A driver and a navigator. The driver, I'm generally the driver. My job is to follow instructions, safely operate the vehicle. With that involves looking for street signs, paying attention to traffic, of course, staying on the road, navigating through checkpoints and controls. Really a teammate to my navigator. My wife is generally my navigator. Her job, on the clipboard, she's got all the instructions, crossing off instructions as we complete them, and then telling me, the driver, what to do. Generally, it's considered that the navigator role is more challenging as you're the boss. You need to tell the driver what to do, and it's ultimately the driver's job to follow it. Now, I say challenge. TSD rallies can certainly get heated, particularly if you take them pretty seriously. We're very competitive with ourselves. We take it pretty seriously, although it's a really fun event. It's not about winning as much as it is a competition with yourself to see how well you can do every leg and, of course, over the rest of the day. So some helpful hints. Communication is key during a TSD rally. You're a team, right? Driver and navigator. The goal is to work as a team, talk through decisions, avoid any overheated emotions during the day, which is easier said than done. We certainly get get heated and overheated, particularly towards the end of a day on a on a warm day as we're cooking in our car. Um, but we are still happily married as of 2026. Married couples can and do have fun on time, speed, distance events, and we invite you to do so. Other great teams, parent kid teams, coworker teams, friend teams. We've had some teams that, driver and navigator live in different parts of the country and they both fly in or somebody travels to be able to reunite to do these events. So it really is a fun dynamic to have a couple people work together for a few hours through the challenge that is a TSD rally. And you'll learn more about that coming up. And then my final helpful hint, and we'll talk a lot about navigation and route finding. Your first priority on the rally should be not getting lost. Um, Depending on the rally, that can be easier said than done. But your priority, you should really think about it as navigation and route finding. Even if you're taking a few extra seconds at each intersection to slow down and assess what the instructions say, what the main road rule says. Taking that a little bit extra time to assess and make decisions will save you in the long run. We definitely make all of our mistakes for the most part when we're rushing. We're trying to stay, perfectly to the second on time, and then we end up getting missing things or getting lost and having to flip a U-turn and go back. So that's a great way to end up losing more points than just taking a deep breath, assessing each intersection in a really methodical manner. That's the path to success here for TSD. Okay, so we mentioned rally instructions. So there's three things that tell you what to do on a rally. The first are the general instructions. I'm going to show these. These are, All right, as of at least, this is revision 2.3, updated May 2026. And I know this is hard to see, so you'll just have to download the version from the website. Um, yeah, this is the Bible for TSD held by the MG Car Club Rocky Mountain Center and some of our affiliated groups in the region. It's 18 pages of fun. I We did an overhaul a couple years ago. It ended up making this a little bit longer, but it's quite a bit easier to read, a little bit clearer for new participants. There's quite a bit of explanatory text that's added from maybe the previous edition, if you're familiar with that. Yeah, and as you go through, there's some basic introduction stuff, some safety items, definitions, and then we really get into it on how do you navigate a TSD rally, at least one hosted by the MG Car Club. Um, like I said, 17 pages of fun. Give yourself an hour to read through this and highlight things that you may want to go back and come back on or you think are particularly important. Some of these things are a little, I don't know, they seem maybe pedantic if you're a beginner, counting. Well, okay, I know how to count. But these all have particular interpretations when it comes to a TSD rally. And we know that people who enjoy this kind of event are people who are sticklers for the rules. So that's why it ends up this way. I don't think fundamentally our rules are much different than SCCA rally rules or Porsche Club has a long-standing rally series. Everybody has maybe slightly different interpretations. I don't think ours are particularly different. Like I said, just kind of 17 pages of fun here. But we'll go through most of it here in this video, and if you know nothing else, you'll at least get the gist from this video that you're watching. So we refer to those as the general instructions of the latest edition available on our website. Supplemental instructions. That's a set of instructions written particularly for this rally that you're about to do, issued by the rally master. Could be right before the event, could be the day before or the weeks before. Occasionally, there are clarifications that need to be made, pertinent to the route or the towns you're going to be going through, or, perhaps there's a construction zone, so we need to interpret rules a little bit differently. Maybe add some rules given some circumstances of an event. And then occasionally, we've seen a rally master add some tricks into a supplemental instruction. They could have a note in there that says, pause 5 seconds at every roundabout or something. And that's not in the general instructions. So it's just good to read through the supplemental instructions and at least skim through before your event. Don't assume that they're a waste of time. There's a reason generally that the rally master is going to provide those. Um, in case there's any conflict, the supplement overrides anything in the general instructions. So yeah, like I said, read it. And then finally, the route instructions are the packet that's given out by the rally master at the start of the event. It's what tells you where to go and how fast. And that's what's the content of the rest of today's presentation. So here's an example of what route instructions look like. There's generally a few columns here, an instruction number column, a column for cast. We generally abbreviate it cast, which stands for change average speed to. What this represents is for this step, let's say we've just turned left on Oxford. We are now going to attempt to go exactly 23 miles an hour until we reach instruction number 8 here, which gives us a new average speed. At which point we increase to 33 miles per hour, which we maintain until we run into instruction number 10. Average speed is the critical point here. So it doesn't mean that you must be driving 23 miles per hour from point A to point B. That's not feasible. There's always traffic or curves or stop sign or intersection, speed up, slow down, which is what makes this actually fun is, okay, well, I'm going 23 miles an hour is my average. The speed limit here is 25. So already I know I'm going to be going a little bit slower than the speed limit, but there's always going to be some stuff here and there that's going to slow me down. Or perhaps there's a stop sign, right? And it says pause 15 seconds. Well, I'm not going to drive my 23 miles an hour up to a stop sign, slam on my brakes instantaneously, pause for 15 seconds, and then instantaneously be going 23 miles an hour again. We drive a vintage car for this, so we have quite a bit of stopping duration and starting duration. So it's something that you have to factor in and say, okay, well, I'm not actually going to pause 15 seconds. I'm going to pause, 7 seconds, assuming that it's going to take me 3.5 seconds to stop, 3.5 seconds to slow down. For instance, some serious ralliers, and you can go find instructions out on the internet on how to do this. We'll actually generate a table to show, how long does it take for me to slow down or speed up from this speed to this speed, and they can adjust that way. We are generally not that serious. Okay, so cast, that's your speed component for the time, speed, distance. And then the instructions themselves are what they tell you to do. So we have three instruction types. The first is a numbered instruction. So most of these here are numbered instructions. Very self-explanatory. This says left on Oxford. Instruction number 5. When we see Oxford, we are going to take a left. Some a little pedantic is once initiated, that instruction must be completed in full prior to starting your next instruction. So don't panic. If you're starting to turn left on Oxford, you have to actually complete that instruction to finish being on Oxford before you can be starting to turn right. This is not maybe a great example, but I guess it also means, you have to pass, let's say, instruction number 8 here. You have to pass this speed limit 35 before you could go on to the next step. So generally, navigator will, take their pen and check off every step as you encounter it, just to mean that yeah, it makes it easy. Complete the instruction you're on before you move on. Okay. Note instructions are providing an instruction that's active and remains active until it's canceled later on. So here on my example, we've done left on Oxford, we take a right, and then we encounter note octagon. So as soon as we take this right, this note becomes active, and the terminology is it's note, which designates it as a note, and then octagon, and then a colon, and then it tells you what you're actually going to do. So this says pause 15 seconds at stop sign. This is an excellent note, right? It would tell you every stop sign you encounter until this note is canceled, you're going to pause 15 seconds. It's a great way for the rally master to tell you to do something that's generally a safety thing, like, add 5 seconds at a roundabout. We don't want you going through a roundabout at 30 miles an hour, perhaps, or pause 10 seconds at a stop sign or whatever it may be, as a way to not have to then write that out for every single step or every single time you encounter a stop sign. And then you just keep driving, remembering that note octagon here, as for my example, is active. You're going to pause at every stop sign until you come across an instruction that tells you to cancel that note. And in this case, it says cancel octagon. So, you turn right. Oh, this note becomes active. Generally, it's good practice to maybe you have a sticky note or maybe on the top of whatever rally page you're on, have your navigator write octagon or something to remind you that there's a note active. Some teams have, a big clipboard that they keep with sticky notes, and they, cross off a sticky note or throw it out, safely, not out the window, to remind them what kind of notes or other instructions are active at any time. Okay, and then the main road rule is what we're going to talk about next. It is what's telling you what to do in lieu of a numbered instruction. So, what makes time, speed, distance rallies fun and the hardest part of these events, in my opinion, is this thing of the main road. We run our rallies, so there's not a picture. You'll notice here, we don't have a picture of every intersection you come to, which means and we're also not describing every intersection that you come to. So there, we use this thing called the main road rule that works in tandem with the numbered instructions that are provided to tell you where to go at any given time. In a lot of ways, this just makes it a little bit easier for the rally master, so they don't have to put a picture of every single intersection all day long. It also adds quite a bit of challenge and fun to this event, which is why many of us do it. So let's chat about main road rule. So big picture, the main road is representing, and we're going to go through these rules of determinants here that really make sense once we talk about them. They describe what is the main road, what's the road that I'm on that I should be taking. You're going to take this main road every intersection you come to, unless these route instructions that are provided tell you to do something different. Okay. One of the principles is if you're driving along and the main road that you're on goes to the right. Okay. And the next instruction here is right. Right is not, you're not going to execute instruction number 6 here. You're going to go right because that's the main road rule. And you only execute these route instructions when they take you off of that main road. So let's talk about what this means. Really, these represent like if you were driving down, a good way to think about it is like a country road. Okay. We're out there in outside of Glenwood Springs. Okay. Country road. We're going to be on a paved road, and there's all sorts of intersections that we're going to come to that, represent what you might see out in the country of Colorado. First is on or onto. So let's say we got instruction here that says left on Oxford. That tells me that if I, come to an intersection and, I'm on Oxford already and Oxford now goes this way, I'm supposed to follow the signs to stay on Oxford because my instruction here said specifically on, or it could say on to Oxford. So this is one of those things that we would write down. What road are we on? We're on Oxford until something tells us to be off of Oxford. So if for whatever reason we come to an intersection and Oxford is going one direction, or maybe you can imagine again, country roads, signs can get weird. Suddenly you find yourself not on Oxford, because they've changed the name of a road or something, and then you come to an intersection. Here's Oxford again. You would what on or onto represents, since we told you to be left on Oxford, is you're going to follow that instruction on or onto. We want to stay on that road until we're directed, in this case, right, until we're directed off of it. Okay, first on or onto. Next is curve or turn warning arrow. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like if you're driving on a highway or something, or any road, and it bends. Generally, you see these smaller signs with an arrow that says we're going to go this way. So that's a curve warning arrow or a turn warning arrow. A diamond-shaped sign that's got a curve warning on it. Hey, heads up, slow down. There's a curve coming up. That represents the main road that you're on is curving up ahead. We got tricked by this once of the main road that we were on. Let's say it's County Road 1 or whatever is intended to turn off to the left. There was a minor road, a smaller road that veered off to the right at that intersection. We were not supposed to take that small one off to the right because the main road that we were on goes to the left. We weren't paying attention. We are like, we're just going to plow forward straight. which got us on a different road off of the road that we were supposed to be on. Again, this is representing the road that I'm on. Where is it going? Curve, turning warning arrow, it's telling you we're going that way. Unless, of course, our route instructions tell you to go right at something like that. Okay, next is protection. So a stop or a yield sign. What does that mean? It means is one of the directions at that intersection, is it protected by a stop or a yield sign? So not including the road that you've entered the intersection on. If there's one direction that doesn't have a stop or a yield sign, you should go that way. Okay. The example that I can think of is, let's say you kind of are driving along and you come up to maybe a Y or a T that's a little ambiguous. Country road, okay, good thing to think about. You're on, County Road 5, whatever, and there's some small road that like leads off to somebody's house or a small neighborhood. It would make sense that they would have like a yield sign or a stop sign on their road that's joining this main road. Okay. Just to remind whoever's on this minor road, they need to stop for the traffic that's on this more predominant road. That's what protection really represents, is don't go down that road, even if it looks like it may be, the road in front of you. If there's one route that doesn't have a stop or yield sign, you would take that one. Okay. The next one is right at T or Y. Just a way to determine if you come to a T or a Y, you would take a right unless the instructions tell you to do something different. Okay. And then finally, straight as possible. If you come to, let's say, a four-way intersection, none of these other things apply, on or onto. There's no curve warning arrow. There's no protection. There's maybe it's a four-way stop. Maybe there's no stop signs. I guess that would be a very dangerous intersection. Yeah, it's not a T. You would just go as straight as possible unless your route instructions told you to do something different. Okay. I know it's a lot. So the way main road rule works is as you're driving, you encounter an intersection, okay, or a decision point, like which way are we going to go? You follow these determinants in order: one, two, three, four, five. Um, I would recommend you print these out. Write them down, print them out. On our car, we've got them taped to the dash. Some rallies, I have them also taped to the steering wheel. We have them taped to the clipboard. So, if we lose one, we're not without this. This is the rule. Every intersection, you go through this determination of, okay, main road rule, which is the main road coming out of this intersection? And what does the route instruction say to do next? If the route instruction doesn't say to do anything different or it's not applicable here, we're going to follow the main road. Assess on or onto, curve, turn, running arrow, protection, right at T, straight as possible, in order. Okay. If you see a curve or turn running arrow and it's applicable to which way you're going, you don't need to keep going because you've already met that determinant for that intersection. If none of them were to apply, it means that there is no main road at that intersection. Let's say you're at a big, important, I don't know, intersection of two highways or something. It's not clear like which way you should go based on these five determinants. It means that you must execute a route instruction. It's a good hint. If there's no route instruction in your packet, you know, it doesn't match the intersection you're at. It doesn't tell you where to go at this intersection. You're probably lost. You should go back to the previous instruction and try again. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about this a little bit next as well. If a written instruction would cause you to follow the main road, okay, so let's, this example here. Say I've gone left on Oxford. I'm chugging along and I come to a T, okay? Well, I don't see Oxford anywhere. Let's say Oxford is ending at this T. So, okay, that one doesn't exist. There's no way to go on Oxford. The street's not there. Okay. Curve turning arrow, let's say that's not there. It's just a T. Protection, nope. We're the only intersection with a stop sign because we, ran into the T. So that doesn't apply. Oh, here we go. We're gonna go right at that T. Okay. So we say, okay, we would go right based on the main road rule. Look at our next instruction, which says right. Okay. Since this just says right, and we're gonna go right based on the main road rule, we're gonna take a right. Okay, based on the main road rule, we're not going to execute instruction number 6. We save that and we keep looking for it as our next instruction. Okay. Um, yeah, at that point, actually, if we were to, since we didn't encounter instruction number 6, technically we're still on Oxford, following the main road. So if we were to run into Oxford at the next intersection, we want to be on Oxford again. And again, it needs to be non-ambiguous. So you couldn't then like come into a T and see Oxford and like there's two ways to go. That would be bad rally writing. So it has to be very clear when you're at an intersection, which way to go. Um, they're constantly trying to trick us, right? They're trying to make us follow these rules. But it's very important that the rules are written correctly so that it's non-ambiguous. You do know which way to go. Okay. This is true unless the instruction that you're given is marked as redundant or may be redundant, which we'll talk about here in a bit. I guess we're just jumping the gun a little bit. If this said write redundant or write may be redundant, it means that that's the same as the main road rule. We know it. Cross that instruction off as you do it. We see this all the time. It's a great way for rally masters to make sure that you don't screw up. Turn right here, dummy. We don't want to rely on you using the main road rule. We want you to turn right, regardless of whether you follow the main road rule instruction or not. So we do see a lot of redundant or maybe redundant. Again, generally it's to help you stay on track. Okay, I know this is a lot. I encourage you at this point, maybe pause my video, write down these 5 things, or take a screenshot or something. You are going to use these when we do some examples in a bit. Okay, instruction modifiers. So in our list of instructions or our numbered route instructions, you may see some of these things. So first, if there is such, ITIS. That stands for if this landmark or sign exists. It may or may not. If so you're looking for it, what that tells you is, this instruction I'm working on right now may not exist. Therefore, you need to also be looking at the next instruction. Okay. So if this said, write if there is such, that might be kind of a silly one. Sometimes it could be like, welcome to Glenwood Springs if there is such. Yeah, whatever. Let's not think too deeply about it. But we see these all the time. Occasionally, rally masters use this to, if they've given you maybe an opportunity to make a wrong turn on a rally, right? Rally master is always trying to be tricky. They'll often put some instructions in like left on MG Street if there is such, as a way to get you back on track. So they know, like, if you miss this one instruction, you're going to come across MG Street, take a left there. And if you never encounter it, maybe it means that you did something correct. And you're not ever going to run into it. And it's just a way to keep, some cars that maybe miss an instruction back on track. Sometimes it can be kind of a trick in itself, but basically, what you should think of is be looking for, if you see an if there is such, be looking for that instruction and the next one, because that instruction may not exist. If this says, okay, welcome to Glenwood Springs, if there is such, um, and you don't see it, but you come across, say speed limit 25, that means that you're now done with instruction 10 because you saw that sign. You're also done with that previous instruction. That tells you that it didn't exist, and so cross that off and off you go. Okay. Yep. Any higher numbered, yeah, the next instruction would cancel it. Okay. Whichever comes first, WCF. You can have a couple instructions given there. You're going to do whichever one comes first. Pretty explanatory. You only complete the part that occurs first, and then that step is considered complete. So you don't do part and then keep looking for the other. You just do the part that came first, cross off that step now because it's done. We talked about redundant, and then overlap or may overlap. I mentioned that you have to complete each instruction in full prior to starting the next instruction. If it says overlap, then it may overlap the next instruction. Okay. Again, this sometimes happens. Generally, it's just to make sure that you're not gonna like miss a turn. Let's say there's two turns like right next to each other, or I don't know, something like that. Overlap can be used to just help you be aware that you're looking for multiple things at the same time. We did have a trick at one point. There was a note that said go 5 miles or 1 mile. Maybe it was, yeah, probably go 1 mile. So it said left on Oxford. Then another step that says go 1 mile and then pause 15 seconds at this sign or something like that. Yeah, and I think basically what happened there is that next instruction that we were looking for. Oh, I think it was actually um, yeah, go 1 mile and then a sign for like, you're entering Pitkin County or something, if there is such. Okay. Well, that sign and at that sign it wanted you to pause a minute or something like that. Well, that sign was less than 1 mile from where it's the instruction that said go 1 mile. So we hadn't actually, if you waited to complete that 1 mile, you never would have encountered that sign that said that would incur you to pause for a minute because you hadn't fully completed that step. That was a trip. We've seen that once in the number of rallies that we've done, but kind of a great example of how a rally master can be kind of clever and let my failure in the past be a guide for you that something like that gives you go this distance that could be a little trick or a trap. So go highlight that. Um, Unless it says overlap or may overlap, yeah, you have to complete that step before you go on to the next one. Okay. So those were our instructions for navigation. It seems like a lot. We're going to go through some examples. It's laid out really well in the generals, and yeah, you really get the hang of it by doing a practice or two. Um, okay, so some roads don't exist for the purpose of the rally. What that means is we don't want the rally master to, each driveway you pass to say, like, don't turn here, don't turn here. The rules are, unless stated otherwise, in a supplemental instruction or something, private roads and driveways, unpaved roads, alleys, parking lots, dead ends, or no outlets. None of those exist for the purpose of the rally. You may see them with your eyes, pretend they're not there, just keep driving. So if it says right and you're looking at an unpaved road, unless the rally master said unpaved roads are, valid for this rally, pretend that one is not there at all. You drive on, you keep looking for the next right. Okay. Dead ends, no outlets. You don't necessarily have to see a sign if you can look and see it's a dead end here. That counts if that's a dead end. Don't stop there. Don't turn there. Keep going. Okay. And then we do have some special signs. If you see a sign that, for our events would say like MGCC with an O, that would mean don't turn here. This is not an opportunity for you. Okay. Yeah. So ignore any of these unless specifically instructed. Yep. Okay. Again, you see this on Lake County roads here in Colorado. All right, in your instructions, we have both signs and landmarks. So signs are things that are entered in quotes. So if it's in quotes, it's referring to something that is a sign. It must be written. You have to see a sign, physical sign someplace that says whatever, it is in the text. Instructions must quote the sign in full or in part with the text in order, no words, letters, numbers skipped or added. Okay. You can do part of the sign. So let's say, we're looking at Cecil Kimbler Boulevard. If I see something that says, quote, Cecil, that's valid. That's talking about Cecil Kimbler Boulevard, as far as, we could know. But if it said Cecil Boulevard, that does not refer to Cecil Kimball Boulevard because it's missing that middle word. Okay. It's one of those little tricks that you may see. Really, this is just to help you. If you're in a town that has both first avenues and first streets, it's a good way for you not to get messed up. First street, not the same as First Avenue, etc. Um, yeah. So, Cecil would be an appropriate abbreviation for Cecil Kimber Boulevard. Um, Cecil Boulevard, yeah, no good. Kimber Boulevard would be fine. Boulevard would be fine. You could do that too. But yeah, you can't be wrong. No misspellings, no missed, no omissions from the middle of something that's quoted. Okay. And again, that may or may not apply to the road you're on. So you could be driving along and there's an instruction to change your speed at the sign that says MG Car Club. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't have to be on the road you're on. It could be like, adjacent to you on a frontage road. There's some rules in our general instructions on like what counts to look at. Generally, things are on the right hand side of the road or above you. You know, if there's a sign hanging above you. Often it'll tell you if there's a sign on the left. Sometimes that gets abbreviated as SOL. Not sore out of luck, but sign on left. Should never have to turn around and look at a sign. So yeah, keep your eyes ahead of you at all times. Okay, so those are signs. Landmarks are capital letters without quotes. Okay, so speed limit sign is a great landmark. If you see something that says speed limit 35 and it's not in quotes, well, it's talking about the speed limit 35 sign. These are things that you and I would understand of like it's a thing. When I say speed limit sign here, it's not in quotes, speed limit sign. It's just saying it's what it is. It's a speed limit sign. We've got a whole glossary in that general instructions that I showed you that defines everything that we consider a landmark. Things have to be identified if they're not in the glossary by a sign. So, school, fire station, main street, whatever. Um, yeah, generally this is not, intended to trick you, but if it's not identified by a sign, we don't want people guessing like, is that a church? Is it a school? Is it an old fire station that's now a theater? Whatever it may be. Yeah, it needs to have a sign out front that identifies it as that landmark, unless it's a common item, yeah, identified in our glossary. So, a couple things to just be aware of here. Signs are different than landmarks, although functionally they really act the same way as we're following our instructions here. Oxford is a street. It's not in quotes. It's identified as a landmark. Welcome to Glenwood Springs. That's referring to that sign that says "Welcome to Glenwood Springs." Okay. If this were to say again, "Welcome to Springs," you would not cancel Note Octagon because you didn't see "Welcome to Glenwood Springs." Okay. All right, signs and landmarks. Okay, I mentioned special signs. A couple signs that you may encounter, really rare on our events. Generally, our rally masters do a good job, predicting ahead of time where there's going to be construction or something. But things happen. Our rally masters will go drive it the day before the event or the morning of, and they'll go put signs out. If there's I don't know, a street sign down, or I mean, it happens, right? Like the city starts doing construction the morning of, and you had no idea. So, yeah, just be aware if you see signs that say MGCC, it either means an X, you're not on course, O means ignore this, and then you may see something that has a number that says go do that, instruction number here. The sign that would tell you to do that otherwise is missing. And then we don't see these too many anymore. This is an upside down checkpoint sign. If you see an upside down checkpoint, it means if there's an emergency, go pull over someplace and await instruction. That's probably mostly applicable if you're like coming into a manned checkpoint, which are more rare now that we're running with the RICTA app. So yeah, we have yet to see one of these, but just be aware if you see one of these, we're trying to talk to you. Okay, it's time for some examples. Okay, so for my examples here, yep, I'm giving you some instructions. Okay, we're gonna follow main road rule, all the rules we just went over. So let's say we're starting here at the bottom of the screen. Okay, I'm looking for the instruction that says left on Kimber. Okay, we come up to the street that's called Morris. Um, well, okay. First off, I don't see Kimber, so that's fine. Let's go through main road rule, which I have written down here. On or onto. Well, let's assume that we're not already told to be on something. Okay, so that doesn't apply. We don't see Kimber, right? So that didn't apply right off the bat. There's no curve or turn warning arrow. I didn't show that here. Let's assume there's no stop signs here, so protection doesn't apply. Right at T or Y. Oh, okay, here we are. We came up to an intersection. It's a T. We're going to go right at that T or Y. The next one would be straight as possible, which doesn't matter because we're already going right at the T or Y. So off we go. We're now we're driving on the Morris Street. Since we didn't see Kimber, we're still looking for instruction number 5. Okay. And our average speed is still 23. So, we may be plugging along at 23 miles an hour. We're going to stop for a moment, while we assess, look at which way to go. We're going to try to go 23 miles an hour or maybe a hint faster to make up for the time that we just sat at the intersection thinking. Without speeding, follow the rules. Okay, so we've main road rule. We've turned on Morris. Okay, we're plowing along and we come across a street called Kimber Street. Okay, so it says left on Kimber. We could just do that, but best practice, remember, is to assess every intersection with main road rule. On or onto, okay? Doesn't apply. We just went over that. There's no curve warning arrows. That doesn't apply. Protection, let's assume that's not here. I didn't draw it on here. Right at T or Y. Okay, it's not a T or a Y. This is a four-way intersection. That doesn't apply. Number five, straight as possible. Okay, the main road rule would say we go straight at this intersection. Okay, so I'm going to go straight unless the instruction that I'm looking at is going to tell me to do something different. Ah, left on Kimber. Now we know, this is Kimber. We're going to go left. Okay. If for some reason this instruction, remember, was the same as main road rule, we would not execute instruction number five here. We would just follow main road rule. Okay. So, big picture, come to an intersection, main road rule. What does it tell us to do? We go right. Look at the next intersection, main road rule. What does it tell us to do? Go straight. Ah, but we have an instruction that's applicable here. We're going to follow that. Okay. Yep. Um, we're going to try again. Okay. Left on Oxford, if there is such. Oh, okay. So now I see this instruction. We may or may not see Oxford. Okay. It may not exist ever. So I'm looking at both instruction five and six now. Okay. So for the same reasons before, we approach this intersection, main road rule. On or onto. Nope, that's not applicable. No curve warning arrow. That's not applicable. Protection. Nope, that's not on here. Right at T. There we go. We're going to go right, just like we did before. Okay. We're still looking for, okay, now this says right, but main road rule says to go right. So we're not executing number six. We're still looking for both left on Oxford. And maybe if that doesn't exist, we're still looking for right. Okay. Now we come to our next intersection. Main road rule. Remember, we same thing as before. Main road rule would say to go straight through this intersection. Remember how this last one said left on Kimber, which is why we took a left. Well, now this says left on Oxford if there is such, and right. Well, at this intersection, it's not Oxford, so maybe Oxford doesn't exist at all. So we're going to look at this next instruction. It says to go right. Aha! Well, our main road rule says go straight. This says go right, which takes us off of the main road. So we're going to take instruction number six. We're going to have our navigator cross off instruction five. It didn't exist. Instruction number six, we're doing right now. We're going to go right, cross that off. Okay. And then immediately start looking at the next intersection and assess for main road rule. Okay. So here is a great example. I am going to ask that you pause and try to figure this one out yourself. And then unpause it and we'll talk through it. Okay, well, I hope you took some time to pause and take look through it. If you haven't, go back and do it because I think you're gonna really grasp this a lot better if you go through this. It gives you what, one, two, three, four, maybe five intersections that we're gonna drive through. Okay, so we're given two instructions here: right on Nuffield and right. Okay, so we're starting here in our F1 shaped MG. Um, we encounter Morris, we're going to assume that none of these are dead ends, even though it kind of looks like it might be. But we're going to assume that they're not. Okay, main road rule. First, on or onto. Well, let's assume we don't have an instruction that already tells us we're on Morris or something. Okay, so on or onto doesn't apply. Curve or torn warning arrow. I don't draw any of those, so they're not here. Protection. Let's say it's like a four-way stop, so protection doesn't apply. Remember, that's only applicable if there's one direction to go that doesn't have that protection. Right at T or Y. Well, this is a four-way intersection, so that doesn't apply. Number five, straight as possible. So we're going to go, I would say, straight at that intersection. Okay. Now we get to Nuffield. It's another four-way intersection. We just did the exact same thing at the previous one. So we know on or onto, nope. Curve turning arrow, nope. Protection, nope. Right at tier Y, nope. Straight as possible. So we'd go straight as possible here. Except for we're looking at right on Nuffield as our next instruction. So that would say instruction number five. It's going to take us right on Nuffield. Okay, so now we're plowing along. We're going to get to Kimber Street. Okay, main road rule. What do? We always do main road rule first. On or onto? Well, we're on Nuffield. Okay, so remember that. Well, we're dead ended, but I don't see Nuffield at this intersection. This is just Kimber Street. So that one doesn't apply because I'm not seeing Nuffield. Curved turning arrow, nope. Protection, nope. There's no stop signs drawn here. Right at T or Y. Okay, we're at a T. Let's go right here. Okay. Well, this instruction here, number 6, says to also go right. What do we know? Main road rule and the instructions say to do the same thing. So we're not executing this instruction because this doesn't say redundant. Okay. We're going to hold on to that one until it can come up later. So we go right here on Kimber. Now we're headed towards the bottom of the screen. Drive to the next intersection. Intersection between Kimber and Nuffield. Oh my gosh! Remember, we were right on Nuffield. Okay, that was instruction number 5. Way back here, it said right on Nuffield. And we haven't executed an instruction to take us off of the main road. This is really illustrating the purpose of the main road rule. We said go right on Nuffield. You could be in some county road or something that Nuffield takes a jog, which is kind of what this looks like. Nuffield is over here. We wanted you to stay on Nuffield, which is why we said that here. So right off the bat, the main road rule here that says on onto, we know we're going to take Nuffield because we were instructed right on Nuffield. It's kind of easy here. There's no right, so we can't even think about doing instruction number 6. So now we're headed towards the side of the screen where we're driving on Nuffield once again. Come up with one more intersection. Okay, main road rule once more. On or onto? Well, we're already on Nuffield. Okay. So I guess that would probably be it. We're on Nuffield. We're going to stay going on Nuffield. Except for instruction number 6 here says right. Okay. So main road rule says you'd go straight, but we have a numbered instruction that says to do something different. We're going to do this thing that that the instruction says to do different. We're going to take a right on MG here. Okay. At that point, we're no longer on Nuffield anymore. Okay. So you can like cross out wherever you wrote we're on Nuffield. Again, when me and my wife are driving, we're like, wait, what street are we on? What street are we on? Not what we're driving on. What are we on? What's the last thing that it said for us to be on? So good thing to remember and then cross it off once you're told to do something different. There you have it. So I want you to go back, practice this a couple times. Go through intersection by intersection. What does main road rule say to do? What are the examples that were the instructions that were given say that we should be doing? Make sure that this makes sense. If you can figure this out, you are going to really be in fighting shape to do well at a MG Car Club TSD rally. I think this is super typical for what you would see, really the kind of difficulty, maybe a little bit on the tricky end of what you would see in one of our rallies. Yeah, maybe even one of the trickier things, as a rally master, people love to do these kind of like right on Nuffield and then, expect that people would miss this turn to stay on Nuffield. They'd see this and say, well, we're just going to keep plowing straight until we see a right. So, yep, that's why main road rule is important. Like I said, write it down. Go back, print out my slides if you need to, and cut it out and paste it on your dashboard. Don't forget those 5 determinants in order. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about how a rally's run itself. In modern day, we're now using this thing called RICTA to do timing. So when we do checkpoints in our rallies, those are really called controls, although I've called them checkpoints here in this tutorial. A timing control marks the end of a time section. So you don't really need to pay too much attention to all this, but timing control basically means, oh, you got a time for your section. You'll get a score at that point. A restart is when the stopwatch starts for the next section. Kind of makes sense. And then occasionally we'll see time checks. Your app will ding and it'll say, what time it is. It has no bearing on how well you're doing on the rally, but it makes me feel good that we're at least still on track. So to do an event with us, at least one that's using RICTA, download this app. It's called RICTA Competitor. It's for iPhones and Androids. Yeah, download this before the event. Unfortunately, there's not much to see. Once you download this, you have to log in and with a password to the rally, which we don't have ahead of time. So you'll get that the morning of. Again, keeps you from going and trying to run the rally before it starts. You keep this app open on your phone throughout the rally. It'll automatically score you and time you as you progress through the rally, which is great because the rally master can then real time see everybody's score at the end of the event without having to go and add up a bunch of time coupons. Since this has to stay open, remember it has to stay open. It can drain battery, so that's why I mentioned bring your backup battery for a longer rally. Oh, the other thing while we're talking about phones, We drive a Roadster, like I mentioned. It can get pretty hot in the afternoon. Maybe a good idea to tuck that someplace. It's still going to get good cell service, good GPS reception, but it's not in the beating sun. We often put it right on our kind of on top of the tunnel and then cover it with a towel just to keep the sun off of it. And that generally works okay. So I mentioned scoring. It's like golf. You want a score of 0. Each second off with a perfect time, fast or slow, for each leg is 1 point. Every leg is scored individually. Okay, so I mentioned getting lost, getting tricked. Um, it's important to be able to brush it off. Every leg is scored individually. Generally, we have a maximum penalty. The default for our events is 150 points per leg. So don't worry if you screw up a leg really, really bad. Your next leg restarts at 0. So just try to do well at that leg, or the next one, or the next one. Just take a deep breath, keep driving. Just because you maybe got lost on one section, it really doesn't doom the rest of your day. The only times we really do bad is when I get frustrated and then I let that frustration have a negative impact on our performance for future legs. So do as I say, not as I do. Entering checkpoints or controls. So most controls with the Ricta app are what we call flying controls. You just keep driving. Let's say there's a stop or a speed limit sign, that your checkpoint or control location is at. You'll pass it. Your phone will ding. It means that you went through it. It'll give you a score. Great, you're 7 seconds off, or you're 150 seconds off, or whatever it may be. Just keep driving. You're already started on your next leg. Um, some checkpoints are manned. So, traditionally we had volunteers manning our checkpoints. Occasionally we will still have those to keep the spirit alive. Don't speed into checkpoints. Our workers reserve the right to disqualify anybody who, at an unsafe speed flies by any of our rally staff. But they'll have, a checkpoint sign if it's a manually controlled checkpoint, and then an area for you to pull over safely, and, get out, stretch your legs, chat with the checkpoint workers, get scored, whatever it may be. Okay. Here's a couple screenshots of the app. Yeah, a couple links here. You can find, again, these links in the primer that's posted on our MG Car Club website at mgcc.org. These are pretty thorough on using the Ricta. It's not much to it. Once you download the app, you get a password, log into your event. There's like 2 buttons, time allowance plus, time allowance minus, and we'll talk about those next. You can see here, this is a picture of what it looks like. When you go through a control, it's giving you a score. So it says, start time and elapsed time. Um, yeah, here's maybe your difference of 35 seconds. And for whatever reason, the score was 30 seconds. Maybe they gave a maximum penalty here of 30 for this leg. And what's cool is you can see your score for all the legs. So yeah, number 4, they did pretty well, 19 seconds off. Number 5, 26 seconds off. So, yeah, generally, if it's your first MG Car Club event, we generally have slightly longer legs. Our level of competition, we don't have too many people running, GPS rally computers that are telling them how far ahead or behind of the perfect time they are. So, I mean, if you've got sections below 10 or 15 seconds, like you should really give yourself a pat on the back. That means you're doing pretty well. Okay. I mentioned time allowances. So this is something to represent. You're allowed to adjust your time while you're driving, which seems kind of counterintuitive. The whole point of this is to drive correctly to get the correct time. But we know stuff happens. You get stuck behind an extra long stoplight, or uh, a garbage truck, or a school bus. Don't go around a school bus with its stop sign out. It's a great example of a reason that you will end up behind your ideal time. Don't fret. The app lets you add time to your section to represent that. So we do let you add time to a leg. We don't let you go negative. So you're not allowed to speed ahead and then say, well, I'm running 30 seconds fast, so we'll just reduce 30 seconds from my time. Nope. We're not encouraging that. You're always allowed to go slower than anticipated and add time to make up for it. You're not allowed to go faster than anticipated and retract time. You can add time in increments of 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then it jumps up to minute 30, 2 minutes 30, 3 minutes 30. Um, Generally, a max allowance of somewhere around, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on what the rally master sets for that event. Please don't abuse that. It's a horrible way to suddenly have a bunch of cars that are coming in, an hour later than they're supposed to be because they took a couple of 20-minute breaks. It's perfect to use for a quick potty break if you don't otherwise have time in a dedicated lunch stop or something. But yeah, for example, we were going up a pass a few years ago. We're behind a truck that's going slower than we want to be going. Okay. I can't go around it, right? The speed limit's whatever. I'm driving an old car. I'm not gonna like fly around this truck that's only going slightly below the speed limit or below our average speed that we're given. So what did I do? I just pulled over, started my stopwatch, and I gave myself, a minute and a half or 2.5 minutes to wait it out, let that truck get way far ahead, wait on my stopwatch until it gets to that 2 minutes and 30 seconds, then I pull back out and off we go. It's a great way to just, yeah, keep yourself on and don't fret about, I'm 10 seconds behind and now I've got to, speed to catch up. Okay, if you're 10 seconds behind because you got caught in traffic, use your stopwatch, see how far off you are, and then just add the time here. The one thing that I will notice is, oh, so you can go pause it, let's say, I'll tell my navigator, okay, add 30 seconds. We wasted 30 seconds at that light or something. Um, and then let's say we breeze through the next couple lights that we're supposed to pause 10 seconds at. Well, then I can take that time back off by pressing the subtract time button. So you can go within a leg, positive and then negative to take that back off. Do pay attention. Once you go through a checkpoint, we have seen some instances where this time allowance doesn't clear. So let's say you add a minute and a half for one section. Generally, it starts at 0 for the next control section. But we have seen some instances where this doesn't reset and it'll carry over the same time allowance from the previous section. So make sure that resets and you can reset it if you need to between legs. All right, we're coming down to the end. So finally, just logistics for driving the rally. Generally, we start at like, let's say 8:01. Your start time would be your car number plus 8 a.m. So yeah, if I'm car number 17, I'm going to start at 8:17. We try to keep cars spaced throughout the event. So you're not, following people. That kind of defeats the purpose of the competition. And B, so if people are needing to slow up and speed down, you're not right into each other and getting in each other's way. If you are, pull over, give each other some seconds to spread out, and then off you go. The first section of rally generally is an odometer check, unscored. It's a good way to get your feet under you so you're not, trying to do it right on time, right off the bat. So I don't know. Generally, these are 10 miles or so. I think often they're supposed to be 10% of the overall mileage for the day. And there's a calibration if you want to calibrate, your car's odometer and speedometer to the official mileage that's given. You can do that. A little bit easier now that we're using, the GPS time. You don't have to worry about calibrating your unreliable MG odometer to the Rally Master's unreliable MG odometer. Um, yeah, so you finish the odometer check. You'll pass a restart and it'll begin the time sections. You'll start getting scores as you go. Sometimes there's sections, let's say on like I-70 on the highway, and it'll say specifically perhaps like up to the rally master and up to the event, but maybe they'll say that section is a free zone or a transit zone that won't be scored. That way you can kind of take your time going through like a small town or on the highway. They don't want to make you keep up with traffic if you're in an old car or something. And then maybe your timer will start, once you get off. That should be given pretty clearly in the instructions. Rally masters should always have lunch breaks or restroom breaks if applicable, depending on the time of the rally, and it'll have non-timed sections as possible or as appropriate. After a break, yep, restart, continue doing the time things. So, you finish lunch and it'll say we're going to restart at the stop sign across from the park or something. Drive, 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 do your best. So finally, tips and tricks. Some of these are reiterated. Take a deep breath, work as a team. Driver and navigator, you're working hand in hand. You cannot do it without each other. Yeah, my wife is always right, but it is important you always work as a team. Driver and navigator, don't get frustrated. These events are supposed to be challenging. The intentional, rally masters are evil, evil people that are there to try to piss you off and disrupt your marriage. So don't let them win. They're supposed to be hard. You're going to make mistakes, but it's all part of the fun. Each leg, remember, is a fresh start. So shake off, that trick in the last leg. It's behind you. Maybe they won't do the same trick twice. So off you go onto the next leg. I mentioned this, the highest priority is staying on course. Take a few extra seconds to discuss, your main road rules here. Yeah, each intersection, it's better to be, 5 seconds slow, and then you can like slowly make that up rather than having to, you rush through an intersection and then you flip around later because you got lost. Um, okay, speaking of getting lost, it happens to everybody. Okay, you miss a sign, you misinterpret an instruction, whatever it may be. There's a rule that, unless otherwise stated, you should be encountering instructions at least every 5 miles. Often it's much shorter. If you're either you've gone more than 5 miles and you haven't seen an instruction, okay, you're probably on the wrong road. Turn around, go back to where you last knew that you're on track. Maybe you have instructions that don't match the signage. You're on I-70 and it says left at T. Well, you're not going to see a T while you're on I-70, so that's probably a good indication you screwed something up someplace. And then let's say the sign speed is radically different from the appropriate speed limit. It says right, and your average speed should be 25, but the speed limit of the road that you're on is 55. Maybe you mess something up and turn around, go back to the last spot that you feel like you're confident of where you're at. Um, yeah, again, it happens. It's much better to calmly pause, pull over, look at your instructions, go circle the one that you're like, okay, yeah, I think I knew where we were there, and then go back to that point. That's why we like to check off every instruction as we do it so that you know where you were the last that you feel like you knew where you were at. Generally, it's pretty obvious. You can tell when you're on the right road or not. And then finally, before you set off in the morning, over your coffee, while you're taking your deep breaths, finding your moment of zen before competition begins, read through the entire instruction packet. Look for things like notes. Highlight where notes start, highlight where notes ends, highlight things that are often tricks, things like overlaps, if there is such, whichever comes first, onto. Those generally indicate things that may span a couple steps or could be a little tricky. You might, put up sticky notes for these. You could prep them, stick them on the back of your clipboard, and then put them up on the dash when it becomes active. So you're allowed to prep before the event starts. Pick up your packet, take 20 minutes to read through it. And then also look for suspicious instructions. So things that are spelled weird. Wow, Glenwood here is misspelled. Maybe this is a trick. Highlight that so you don't get tricked as you're, rattling along trying to read your instructions on the go. If there's a bunch of notes, again, that could be an indication of, a bunch of overlap notes. You're always allowed to have more than one note active at a time. I didn't mention that, but yeah, you could have as many notes active as the rally master gave you until they get, canceled. Repeated street names, if you're reading through and it's like right on first, right on first, right on first, right on first. Generally, the rally masters try to put one section in the rally that's kind of like a trap or a trick. You really have to be diligent about following the instructions. So just know that that section's coming up, and you can really be ready for it. So these are ways that you can prep before the event even begins. And then finally, remember, this is fun and it's an MG event, so we say safety fast. For a time, speed, distance event, I guess it's safety cast. All right, well, you can find all the information you need about our MG Car Club Rocky Mountain Center and our annual Rally Glenwood Springs event, which I think is just an amazing event that we do. This year is going to be the 74th annual. Next year will be the 75th, a really big one for 2027. We're lucky to have this here in our backyard. Yeah, get in touch with us. Let me know. Send us a note. Socials at mgcarclub.org or something like that. On Facebook or Instagram. Come connect with us if you watched our video and you found it helpful, or if you want to come out and join us for a rally. We'll take all types. You don't have to drive an old leaky British car to come and join the fun. So thank you so much for your time and happy rallying.